Hello friends, and welcome back to the Updo Collective, where I teach all things bridal hair, especially foundations of bridal hair. Today we are going to talk a little bit about using some hair padding and bun forms. So there's lots of different ways to use a bun form. There's lots of different ways to use mesh padding, and I'm just going to give you one idea today on my lovely little mannequin gal. So let's go ahead and say right off the bat that we have this hair all prepped. We have done all our work with our products to get everything in there and it's totally ready to go. So let's just keep this simple today. So I'm going to use just a part from top to top of the ear, so like a headband part, and section that away. And then I'm going to do the rest of the hair into a ponytail just for simplicity's sake today. Now, mesh padding can be used for a couple of reasons. One is to build volume. So if you are working with someone who's got thin hair, fine hair, hair that just doesn't have much lift to it, much weight behind it, then using padding can help to give the illusion of fuller, thicker hair. So that's one way. This particular mannequin does not need help in the thickness or in the volume. She's got plenty. So you can see I'm just lifting a little with my comb here, and I can get a little bit of volume that way because I've already done prep work. So I'm just gonna use it more as a foundational base. So we were gonna just do a low ponytail, and I'm just gonna secure with one elastic. Normally, if this is a real bride, I'd probably do 2 elastics because I'm always afraid of them snapping. So I always do 2. And we're just gonna smooth out any kinks here. So like I said, I'm gonna show you a little bit more of the technique today, not so much trying to give you the most perfect polished updo, but this way you'll kind of get one idea for how I like to use some mesh padding. So like I said, we've done our prep work here, and this is a mesh donut that I got off of Amazon. I got a pack of them, different colors. And so I would normally use a blonde one to match the hair color that I'm using, but because I want you to be able to see it clearly, I'm using a brunette one. And I just cut it. So this is cut in half, and then they open and they're just pieces of mesh. And so you can move it in any way, shape, or form that works for you. And so for her, because I'm not trying to build a lot of volume with this, I just want this to be a nice anchor for my low bun. I am just folding it, and it's not super thick, and I'm gonna put it right over the top of this bun. And so what you want to do is make sure you get this in secure. So I'm going to go the 4 corners because this is kind of a rectangular, and I push straight in and then push the pin back in toward me. And so this is kind of that push pinning technique that I've talked about in other videos. And I'm kind of just following the shape of her head to create an anchor for myself with this mesh padding. Now you need to put in as many bobby pins as it takes for it to feel secure. So if it feels like it's slipping out or loose, add some more. But you can just see I have it right over the top, and you can put a couple more on the sides if it feels like it needs to have it. But it just gives a base right here. And so what this will do and how it will work, especially on hair that is really slippery, like hair that's virgin hair, that needs a little bit more help with grip, this is going to be great for pinning in your curls. So let's say that you've prepped this hair, you've curled it, she's already got a bend in it. Now I'm going to divide it in as many sections it will take to create the look that I want. So for this, I'm going to divide this into 4 sections. So I'll face this way so you can see, and I'll take the outermost section first. So just for simplicity's sake, you would divide the hair in half, okay, and then half again, so you have 4 even sections. I'm going to start with my first one, and I like to use texture spray here to make this nice and grippy. So you want to spray this with texture spray, and then you are going to pull it up and over to the outside of this bun form. So I want to cover the outside of it with this section here. And the way I will do that is I'm going to hold this loosely, and because this has the texture spray in it, that makes it a little bit tacky and stay together. And because I twist it a little bit, it's staying together. I'm going to go through and do a push pinning. So I'm pushing my pin in here and right into that bun form area. So the outside one doesn't necessarily go right into the bun form because you're covering out the edge of it. So I'm almost going behind it. but I could feel that one slide into the bun form. And make sure you don't have any gaps. So I want to fill in this gap down here, and I'll do that by the push pinning technique. So I just go in with my pin, I'm not even opening it, and I just push it in. And I can feel it kind of going behind that bun form. And then we can see how it looks up here. I just have this end. So depending on how long the hair is, if the hair is short, it might just end here. If it's long, you might have more to work around. If it's long, you can keep going and wrap it around. This one I'm just gonna tuck in. So I'm gonna open this up, grip the end of this, and then push that in. So now I've got my first section up and in. Now, depending on the look of this, you can do this in different ways, but I'm just gonna work from one side to the other. So now I'm taking my next section, same technique. We're twisting it, spraying it with the texture spray, and then pulling it up. So I'm just going next to this hair here, and you can see how I can kind of pull it apart with my fingers to fill in the space, like that. And so this is where the mesh really comes in, where you can feel it. So I'm doing the same technique that I just did over here, where I'm just gripping in here, but this time I'm pushing it into the mesh bun so I can feel that mesh bun in there, and then I'm just turning it to the side. So it's not even going against her head, it's going into the bun. And then that way, oops, instead of going against her head, the hair isn't flat, you have more volume. So the bun already is more voluminous than it would be if you were pinning this against her head, right? Because you don't have to push in flat, you're just pushing into the mesh form. And once I pull it in, push it in, then I kind of pull the hair around it out so it has that full look. And then with this one too, you can kind of come across the top and lock that in. You can finish this with some hairspray as well as you work. So now we've got 2 more sections. And what you need to do too is, if you feel like you don't have enough with the hair, you need to pull this apart a little bit to cover this mesh part. So you can use your fingers and just stretch the hair out a little bit where it needs to be to cover that up. So you're expanding it, and you can kind of do that because you have that texture spray in there. So now I'm gonna go in with my last 2 pieces and follow that same technique. So it's curled, it's sprayed with texture spray, okay? And that way it will fan out for you. Use more texture spray if it's not fanning. So you can see I'm holding that up, and I can kind of pull it apart with my fingers a little bit. Now with this piece, this center piece here, you can hold it with your thumb while you're kind of pulling the pieces apart to get the shape that you want. Or you could use a clip and just hold that in. But either way, you're going to do the same technique we've been doing, where I'm just going in and pushing into that bun form. So I'll put pins in through this bun form here. So it's hitting that mesh, and then I'll secure the top internally. So I'm going inside where my thumb is, and I'm pushing down into that mesh. And then you just want to kind of splay it out with your fingers. And so you can see up here, you don't see any bobby pins because it's pinned internally on top of this mesh piece. And now, as with the other sections, you kind of want to fan it out a little bit. And you can also use a comb to do this too, just for the sake of time. I'm using my fingers today, and her hair isn't really frizzy, but if you're working with someone who's got, like, you know, crazy frizzy hair, then it's going to be important for you to use a comb instead of your fingers. But you can see how I've already got a lot more fullness just with this. You know, it's coming off her head much more fully than it would be if I didn't have this internally. So the last piece is going to have to cover up this last section. So if you're feeling like you have too much section showing and you don't have enough hair showing here, or hair enough to cover it, then you need to fan these out more so you have more coverage. But this last one, you can use it to fan out as much as you need to. So you can see how I can just pull that with my fingers to cover that, like that. And then we can pin that internally. It's kind of awkward to do it from this side. Kind of gotta like dance over here to get over here. But I can fan this out to cover and then come in internally and do my pins here as well. So a trick that I do sometimes when I'm pinning something, but I don't want to anchor it in yet with like a foundational pin, is I'll just hold it in like that with, you can see I'm just using this pin curl clip. And then this gives me the flexibility to come through and do my pinning without having to do a big anchor bobby pin. And by anchor bobby pin, I mean one that's really against the head, so it's holding in nice and flat, which is what I will do to this top piece. But I want to get in these other bobby pins into the mesh padding first because I want to get the shape down. So I get the shape down first. If I like it, then I hairspray it. And then this is already kind of holding. Now, the pins that I have into this mesh, of course, isn't gonna hold the whole thing. So that's why I need to do a foundational pin up here. And that's when I'll come in kind of internally and get this pin locked in against her head. And I can do a couple more to make sure it's anchored. But this end here, I can either tuck in and hide, or I can just let it kind of flow over the top. And then you just wanna look for any gaps. So you can see how I have little gaps here. And you can either go in with a regular bobby pin, or you can use hairpins here, and they work really well. By taking a hairpin, you can move the hair the way that you want it, and then just kind of weave it in. And then it goes into that mesh, hairspray it, and it will stay put. So you just want to look around, make sure there's no gaps underneath, no gaps on top, and there you have it. So now with the front, these are pieces that you can leave out. This is where you can, you know, take them and drape them over the top, something like that if you want. If you're finding that you don't have enough hair to cover your bun, you could also use the hair from the front, pin it back, and then it can come down over the top to fill in any pieces that are showing the mesh. And that's really it. Really nice, okay? So that is one idea of how to use a bun form to create a nice shape with your bun. It doesn't have to be that much. You don't have to use a big stiff donut. In fact, those are really hard to push into. So I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any more questions about bun forms, mesh forms, please drop a comment below. If you want to learn more in depth on how to do more updos, I've got a foundations class. It's a boot camp, 6 weeks, so you can get on the wait list for that. The link is in the comments, and I would love to see you subscribe and join in the journey of learning lots of updos with me, Heidi, with the Updo Collective. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week.